Hello, everyone, and welcome to Walking Through the Bible. The Book of Ezra is going to be an important book for us to study, for it is the first to give a history of the post-exilic period in Israel's history. We're going to be introduced to some key figures in this book, as well as some events that will not only help our understanding of other Old Testament books, but also lay some of the groundwork for our understanding of some of the parts of the Gospels. So if you have a Bible with you, turn to Ezra chapter 1. We're going to be reading from verses 1 to 11. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Ezra chapter 1, beginning at verse 1. Now in the first year of Cyrus king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth the Lord God of heaven has given me, and he has commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is among you of all his people? May his God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is God, which is in Jerusalem. And whoever is left in any place where he dwells, let the men of his place help him with silver and gold, with goods and livestock, besides the freewill offerings for the house of God, which is in Jerusalem. Then the heads of the fathers' houses of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests and the Levites, with all those whose spirits God had moved, arose to go up and build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem. And all those who were around them encouraged them with articles of silver and gold, with goods and livestock, and with precious things, besides all that was willingly offered. King Cyrus also brought out the articles of the house of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from Jerusalem, and put in the temple of his gods. And Cyrus king of Persia brought them out by the hand of Mithridath the treasurer, and counted them out to Sheshbazzar the prince of Judah. This is the number of them: 30 gold platters, 1,000 silver platters, 29 knives, 30 gold basins, 410 silver basins of a similar kind, and 1,000 other articles. All the articles of gold and silver were 5,400. All these Sheshbazzar took with the captives who were brought from Babylon to Jerusalem. When we completed our study of 2 Chronicles, we had the children of Judah taken off into captivity by Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. Now it should be noted among the children of Judah that those included Benjamin as well. But lest we think that there were nobody from the other tribes among Judah and Benjamin, I would like us to go back and reread 2 Chronicles 34, verses 8 and 9. In the 18th year of his reign, that being Josiah's reign, when he had purged the land and the temple, he sent Shaphan the son of Azaliah, Maaseh the governor of the city, Joah the son of Jehoaz the recorder, to repair the house of the Lord his God. When they came to Hilkiah the high priest, they delivered the money that was brought into the house of God, which the Levites who kept the doors had gathered from the hand of Manasseh and Ephraim, from all the remnant of Israel, from all Judah and Benjamin, and which they had brought back to Jerusalem. Josiah reigned for 31 years, meaning that the discovery of the book of the law was in about 622 BC, or about 17 years before the first wave of captives was taken to Babylon. These tribes, though keeping their familial identities, would have been assimilated into Judah and Benjamin by land. And so in this book, when we read of Benjamin and Judah being sent back, we can know that there was a small remnant of Israelites also included in this, as even Israel will be mentioned in the book of Ezra. The book of Ezra, however, doesn't begin with the history of the captives in Babylon. It skips over all of that, coming right up to the release of the captives under Cyrus the Great. If we want to know what occurred under the Babylonian captivity, we have to read the books of Ezekiel and Daniel, which we will do, the Lord willing, in future studies on down the road. To fill in the missing gaps, though, until then, the Babylonian Empire stretched all the way from what is today the Persian Gulf up into southeastern modern Turkey, coming all the way down to the borders of Egypt. Following the death of Nebuchadnezzar, Amel-Marduk took the throne, which the Bible records as the king who released Jehoiachin from prison back in 2 Kings 25, verse 27. Amon-Marduk only reigned for 2 years before there was a 5-year period of unrest culminating in the reign of Nabonidus. Nabonidus was the final ruler of the Babylonian Empire, with Belshazzar, his son, co-ruling with him for a period of time up to and including the defeat of Babylon by the Medo-Persians under Cyrus. The Medo-Persians, though, didn't come out of nowhere, for Cyrus actually began reigning over Persia in 559 BC, around the time of the death of Amon-Marduk of Babylon. He united Persia with Media in about 550 BC and steadily grew in strength to challenge the Babylonians. His territory spread north and westward into Anatolia and culminated with the conquest of Lydia in about 546 BC. All that was left was to replace the Babylonians, which Cyrus eventually did in about 538 BC. In the book of Daniel, the Babylonian Empire is described as the head of gold, with it being the stronger empire to the chest and arms of silver, which represents the Medo-Persians. Now you might look at the map and say, but the Medo-Persian Empire was larger. And while that's true, there is a feature of this empire that we'll see in the books of Esther and Daniel that will make it weaker than Babylon, but we'll save future comment on that until those studies. Getting back to the book of Ezra, we come to the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, with the first year here representing the first year since Cyrus became king over Babylon, since this is told from a Jewish perspective. What we find here is that the providence of God in looking out for his people and fulfilling prophecies spoken by Jeremiah and fulfilling promises spoken to Abraham concerning the Messiah stirred up the spirit of Cyrus so that he made a proclamation to release God's people from captivity, allowing them to return to their land and rebuild the temple. The language used here is identical to 2 Chronicles 36, verses 22 and 23, which gives credence to the conclusion that Ezra wrote the book of 1st and 2nd Chronicles as well. The decree of Cyrus itself, contained in the book of Ezra, is a little longer, but it gives us a more complete picture of what Cyrus commands. The proclamation recorded here by Ezra finds a close parallel in an imperial decree known as the Cyrus Cylinder. The British Museum also owns fragments of the same text recorded on a tablet rather than on a cylinder. Although the Cyrus Cylinder does not mention the Jews specifically, Cyrus does claim to have returned all the peoples and gods, sacred objects which the Babylonians took from their homelands, and to have supported the worship of each nation's god or gods. That Cyrus mentions Jehovah as God here in Ezra, I do find interesting, as Cyrus would have had access to Daniel, who was still alive at this time, and so would have had an opportunity to learn about the true God of heaven. However, from the Cyrus Cylinder itself, whether or not Cyrus became a true believer in Jehovah is uncertain, and so that will be left to God. What is certain, though, is that Cyrus commanded that the fathers' houses of Judah and Benjamin, along with the priests and Levites, were to return to Judah to build the house of the Lord. Cyrus would help fund the building of this temple, even going so far as to provide the Jews livestock to take with them, therefore enriching the people too. But Cyrus personally wouldn't provide the labor for building the temple. The Jews would provide that. Along with them, all the articles of the house of the Lord taken by the Babylonians were returned to Judah to take and place in the temple in Jerusalem. We read of Nebuchadnezzar taking these articles back in 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verses 18 and 19, which says, "And all the articles of the house of God, great and small, the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king, and of his leaders, all these he took to Babylon. Then they burned the house of God, broke down the wall of Jerusalem, burned all its palaces with fire, and destroyed all its precious possessions." Once Nebuchadnezzar took these items, he brought them to Babylon and placed them in the temple of his gods, Marduk. Cyrus would have taken these items out of this temple and entrusted them to Sheshbazzar, the Babylonian name for Zerubbabel, one of the princes of Judah, to take back to Judah and with Judah to Jerusalem. Missing from these articles is the Ark of the Covenant. As history and movies have depicted, nobody knows what exactly became of the ark, except for the fact that Nebuchadnezzar doesn't appear to have captured it. The book of 2 Maccabees, written during the 2nd century BC, records a Jewish tradition that the ark was taken by Jeremiah the prophet to Egypt and hidden there, but this cannot be verified. It is, however, known that the Ark of the Covenant did not return with Judah from captivity, nor would a new one be made for the Second Temple, with the Holy of Holies missing the Ark for the entirety of the Second Temple's almost 600-year history. As for the route these captives took, there can be little doubt that the returnees would have traveled up the Euphrates River before descending along the mountains of Lebanon, approaching Jerusalem from the north. This route was about 850 miles or 1,400 kilometers, and for a group that included children and livestock, such a trip could have easily required 3 to 4 months. This would have mirrored the route that Abraham would have taken when he traveled from Ur of the Chaldees, which is not far from Babylon, to Canaan. With Cyrus's decree now given and the captives returning, we'll move on to chapter 2, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Ezra chapter 2, verses 1 to 35, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. We thank you for watching Walking Through the Bible today. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below. But if you like this video, we ask that you consider subscribing to our channel so you won't miss out on other videos in our series, as well as share this video among your friends so that the saving message of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.